Yo.
What up? What up?
Oof. What's going on? We're 4 podcasts deep today.
Bro, I think it's tomorrow.
Bro, we done did 17 episodes. This is the first one of the year.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year.
2023.
Look at us, man.
Absolutely. Welcome back, everybody, to the Carpet Footprint Podcast. He is Juan and I'm Sean, and every week we get together, have a few drinks, talk about things going on in the world, try to focus on things making an impact. Whether they be good, bad, or otherwise, hit them with the deliciousness of the day.
Yo, man, this one is I had to cut myself off, bro. I had to be my own bartender to be like, you've had enough, Juan. This is El Diablo.
Yep.
And it tastes delicious. We did a shot of Terramana tequila. We did half a shot of blackberry liqueur,
yep,
or creme de cassis, whichever one. But you just did the Kuiper blackberry liqueur.
Yep,
it's awesome. So half a shot of that. We squeezed an entire Persian lime into it, right? The smaller one.
Yeah, the smaller ones. Yep.
So Persian lime, squeeze the entire lime into it, and then top it off with ginger beer. Put a wedge of lime in it, stir it up. And you got El Diablo, and I'm almost positive we've done that on the pod before.
I think so, man.
It's so good. So
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, man. But listen, we do callbacks all the time. We got the old fashions. We hit back to the gin and tonics. We hit back to. So sometimes you just gotta go with the favorites or the things that hit. This one never disappoints. And dude, the Terramana Reposado, even the regular, bro. Fuck the Rock, man. This guy figured it out, man. It's so good, man. So shout out to him again for this banging ass tequila.
Yeah, and the recipe called for the reposado, so not necessarily the Terramana. So if you have a reposado that is not too expensive, that you enjoy, definitely use that. I would not mix the really good stuff with anything. But if you got one that you like, this one hits, man. I really like this drink.
It really does, man. And like you said, it could be any reposado. But yeah, this one always hits, man. It's hard to beat this one, I think, straight and mixed tequila. And we always feel great the next day. Like, I never feel like I drank. So,
yep.
Yeah, so shout out to Terramana, man.
All right, man. Oof. My Carpet Footprint of the week is going out to McDonald's. Mickey D's.
Did somebody say?
McDonald's is opening up their first fully automated restaurant in Fort Worth, Texas.
Ooh.
So when you go into the restaurant, there is no people. I believe because the article that I read didn't talk about like how many people they actually have staffing it, but based on what I've read, it looks like, or it sounds like, there's actually people in the building filling orders, but there's no one to talk to. There are no amenities. There's no seating. None of that. It's literally you walk in, there's a kiosk, you can order, or you can do the drive-through, or you can do the order ahead and pick up. Even the person even at the drive-through window is a robot that is like putting like a almost like a automated tray that comes out of the window and gives you your bag with the food. So that's why I'm thinking that it's got to be humans in there filling the bag somewhere, but not. But as a
human making sure the robot that does that is working.
But I wonder, like, how do you make the cheeseburger, wrap it, just right, or a Whopper,
like a vending
wrap
machine.
it.
You run it through some kind of like
I
system.
guess,
Yeah,
man.
Dude, this is what happens when nobody applies for jobs.
Right. Well, what was great about it was like, so I'm looking at this and I'm going like, oh man, that's really good, like automation. I even thought about like the restaurant itself is 26% smaller than a normal restaurant.
Oh, so less of a carbon footprint.
That's right. Hey, bring it back, baby.
Let's go.
So I'm looking at that. I'm going like, okay, that's good, right? Here's a job. Most of the thinking like, here's a job that, quote unquote, nobody wants, right? Or at least, possibly when you go to McDonald's, you see that a lot of like teenagers.
Yeah.
All right. So it's like,
it's a job. It's not a career.
Right.
Dude, and that's what we get for always calling things a McJob. Remember, teachers would be like, I'm going to give you an application at McDonald's. They would talk shit.
Yeah.
McDonald's sticking it to y'all right now. I'm like, all right.
Well, they was sort of like, they were sort of like good and bad things online about it, where it was like the good part was like, oh, look at the innovation, blah, 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 right? But the naysayers of it are going, oh, look what happens when we ask for, you know, a $15 minimum wage. You know, then they just replace us. We need to band together and we need to have unions. And I'm going like, man, like as a corporation, man, like you can't win.
Oh,
Like,
no.
you're like the enemy, dude. And I'm going and I'm going like, no, people, when in my opinion, when you have technology, when technology can take over your job, that is the key for you to go, I'm gonna go do something else.
Yeah. And use that as a spark.
Yeah,
to-
dude. Like if a robot can build hamburgers and deliver them out to people, like, dude, that's a key sign that we have evolved past that. And you need to go use your mind.
And our time is better
something
spent
else.
doing something else, man.
Time. That's right. That's even better. Your time is better spent doing something else, man.
Dude, and I'm one, and maybe to a fault, I'm one of these, and I mean, you spot this all the time in me, where like I'm notorious for like, even like if somebody talks and I know what I want to say or I know how you're gonna finish and I cut you off and it's like like I'm this person of like I just don't want to waste the time. Like I'm like, oh, let's get it like,
Right.
and so. I can appreciate this because I would go, yeah, why would you want to spend time doing that? Let's spend time doing things that are more meaningful, whether that's like maybe someone who would have done this, maybe now will go to school and learn how to do a trade that will lead to him inventing something or her inventing something, whether it's a cure or a new product or whatever. You know, like I just feel like as humans, we're just meant to do more than these mundane everyday tasks. Like there's a reason why farming is automated and all this other stuff. And I just think that, like
and
you
there's
said,
a reason why people hate those jobs.
Yeah.
You know, like I never worked in McDonald's, but I've worked for Disney inside of a burger joint restaurant. Dude, that shit sucked.
yeah.
I did it probably from like, I want to say like a 4-year time span from like 16 to 20. I worked in like Fantasyland Foods. So I just kind of like jumped around to the different food locations in there. All of it sucked, bro. There's a fucking hot dog place, a burger place, a place that just served drinks, a place that served like piraguas, you know what I mean? Like, dude, and I remember working at those places and I'm going like, I can't imagine myself here, like as an adult.
Yeah.
Even though I was already sort of like, quote unquote, 2 years into sort of adulthood. But I remember being 20 and then when I joined the Marine Corps, that being part of the reason why I joined, because I was like, I don't like what I'm doing in school, and this shit is not the answer. Like me serving burgers is not the answer.
No, and I think some people it makes happy, right? Like some people are like, I could do that forever and I'm straight. And listen, that's fine.
Yeah,
I just
go
think as
for it.
human beings, we're designed to do more, want more, strive for more, push for our advancement. You know, like you said, there's just better use of our time than things like that. And that's not to say that you're not, that if you do this, that you're sort of like an unworthy human. I just think that
No, definitely not.
If you choose to do this and you're happy, like cool. But if not, then let this be the sign to go, like you said, you should aspire to do something else. And I think for us, dude, human nature is we need to be forced to do things. Like I was just having this conversation with somebody. It's like the if you have like $5-10 in your bank account, you got to make it last 2 weeks and you got to eat. Somehow you make that shit work, right? But if you have $100 in your bank account, you'll blow that shit in 2 days. If you could, like it's like we do. It's like that's that old adage: if you gave yourself an hour to clean your room, you clean in an hour. But if you gave yourself a whole day, it'll take the whole day. It's like we need sort of that push. And we need the limits, and we need someone to set them for us because it can't be self-imposed.
Right.
And so because then we know we can break our own rules. So it's I don't always necessarily look at this as a bad thing. Also funny, I saw it and I just went, how many more jobs does this happen to because of I'm gonna tell you right now, without getting too far into it, like the company that I work for has positions open across the board. High paying positions. Some of them are mid-level, some of them are higher level, some of them are executive level. We have trouble filling any of them. And then anyone that I talk to is having the same issue. So it's not even a matter of we're not paying them enough or there's not enough or certain things don't inspire them. It's just like the workforce right now, man, for whatever reason, is a lot of the things that we've talked about is people have either gone remote or COVID made them realize they don't want a job or whatever it is. The job market right now is still very sort of employee friendly. Because if you're an employer and you're trying to fill roles with good talent, it's difficult right now, man. And it's not just a matter of what you offer, because I would say that what we offer is competitive, but we don't even get applications. Like, it's so bizarre. And I'm telling you, at every level, like, some of them I'm like, I get it. Some of them I'm going, really, that role? Like you're talking about 6-figure roles you're having trouble filling. And and I feel like that is going to lead to, companies aren't just going to sit around and wait for people to change their minds, especially a company with the resources like McDonald's. They're going to go,
right?
Because I don't know if you've walked into a McDonald's lately. There is only like 3 people working all the time, and they're
a lot of
stressed,
and a lot of them steer you towards the kiosk.
Yes.
To go order.
I went to one near here recently, and there was only kiosk. You couldn't order. You could pay in person if you didn't have a card to use at the kiosk thing for cash.
Yeah.
And then what they did was they gave you almost a table number.
Yep.
And you can go sit there, and then they just brought it to you, and then you leave whatever with it. I think I went inside because the drive-through was closed down because they didn't have enough staffing, and it was like. Wow. There was like 3 or 4 people back there just cooking, and then they would just walk it out. So all of us were just sitting at tables waiting with our little numbers, and everything was through the kiosk. And everything was so automated. And I remember thinking, like, damn, soon enough, once you figure out how to make these burgers without these people, like, you could run this with one. Like,
yeah.
Like, you could run it, and sure enough.
Yeah, you probably want somebody there in case something breaks.
Yeah, that's it. And even then, that'll change at some point in time. It's like once the robots will get smarter than we are, for sure.
But this place also has even like a place for, like, that's what you said, they have like an order ahead lane. Mm-hmm. They have like a special area where like the couriers will come, like the Uber Eats and the Door Dashes, right? Like, they all come to get there's a spot just for that. But when you walk into the establishment, you will not see a human.
Dude, I think do you think this is a byproduct of like the current market, which was then driven by COVID, which is then like, do you think this was companies wanted to do this anyway, and COVID just fast forwarded it without them getting the pushback? Because like you said, they're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Do you think we were going this way? Yeah, like, do you think we were going this way anyway, and sort of COVID fast forwarded? Do you think it's a product of like COVID and the fact that people don't want to work? Do you like?
I think it's all of it, bro. I think that the technology was coming anyway. But I do, from you going, hey, here I am in a place that's offering 6-figure salaries and we can't fill positions. What are these, $15 an hour or $12 an hour jobs experiencing?
Yeah.
I
can't. Yeah, it's so tough. Like you said, I don't know how you combat that as an employer, other than figuring out a way to sort of get rid of people, or not get rid of people, but replace them to an extent of you still have a product to offer or service to offer or whatever it is, and you got to be able to put that out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and how long until this is sort of like mass produced, right? And then how many other folk or how many other companies adopt this method?
Oh yeah, dude, because you've seen, I think all the time now, what's one of the biggest economies right now in terms of like the gig economy, right? And the gig economy has like Uber Eats, has just Uber, has Lyft, has DoorDash, has Postmates, has all this stuff, all these people doing stuff. Once they figure out this automated car thing, then really quick behind it is like, I've seen that Domino's has like, have you seen this? Domino's has this truck
car,
that
right?
makes pizza.
Oh, they
but
make
it
it?
makes it, yes.
I heard about the one that actually delivers.
It does deliver, but one of them actually makes the pizza inside the thing, and then it brings it. So it's like an oven, and one of them is like a vending machine and do that stuff. I go, how, for places like a Little Caesars, right, where the how hot and ready concept and all that stuff, like how long before there's like a red box of Little Caesars and you just go up to it and you just get your pizza? You don't need a person in there. Like, it's automatically making it. Like, it's just inevitable. And I feel like we don't do ourselves any favors. But we got to find a middle ground, because I don't know what the answer is, man. But like, when people sort of go like, I'm going to stick it to the man, I'm not going to apply for this job because they're not offering me enough or whatever it is. And then there's no dialogue in between of going like, hey, if we did this, maybe we'd come work for you. I think then corporations go, I got a business, I got a bottom line to protect. How do I protect that bottom line? I'm just going to figure out a way around you. Yeah. Like, no one's going to wait around and go like, oh, the people will come back. Like, no, they're just going to figure out a way to replace the people. Yeah. And we're just going to fast forward that process. So I'm really curious to see like what like the next 1 to 2 years do to the market. Like, hopefully, to me, is like you're gonna have more fulfilling jobs, higher paying jobs, because you've replaced these mundane everyday things and you free up people's times, and you know, that's what I'm hoping. But there's gonna be this weird transition in between, because as humans, we're sort of not designed for that just yet. Yep. So like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Man. So shout out to McDonald's for reducing their carbon footprint. But like I said, there's always people that will complain about everything, man.
Yeah, so you can't please everyone, man.
Let's see where it goes.
Let's see where it goes. Yeah. So the McJob is taking on a whole new meaning. the McJob belongs to the Tesla bot or whatever it is over there making burgers.
Yep. What you got,
dude? I had a little feel good story, man, which is unlike me.
I know, right, man. Wait a minute.
It's the holiday spirit.
Let me get the thermometer. Make sure you ain't running the fever.
My Grinch done left at Christmas time. No, man. I read this story, man, and I just thought about, you know, like we always talk about, like things making an impact.
Yep.
And this thing impacted so many people and so many things, and for a lifetime.
Wow.
So there's this guy named Jay Whitty.
Okay.
And I'm sure during the holidays there was those massive storms in the Northeast.
My God! But
yeah,
did
like
you
Buffalo,
see
upstate
Buffalo,
New York.
bro?
Yes. So this is right outside of Buffalo.
Did you see the ice?
Oh
thing?
My God! It was ridiculous. Like cars were encased in ice.
I didn't see the cars. I saw the houses.
I did.
Like,
see, yeah.
it looked almost beautiful.
Yeah.
Almost like somebody did it as
if somebody didn't live in there.
Yeah, right. If I'm not living in there, it was great.
It was. No, you're right. There was something romantic about it, but at the same time, scary. I guess, for lack of a better term.
Looked like Elsa built all those houses.
Yeah. She couldn't let it go. She fucked it all up. But so during those storms, man, people were left stranded. People were left, and so this.
I think 29 people died.
Yeah. Dude, it was
last time I had heard it may be more than that.
Dude, I don't know what the final count was, but I definitely know it was a storm that was killing like a bunch of people. There was people stranded. There was people. I mean, it was the stories that I read of people like leaving last messages to family members because they were freezing themselves in a car in the middle of the highway. They couldn't move anymore and all that stuff. It was just heartbreaking, man. But this guy named Jay Whitty is stuck in this storm. And so he like gets out of his car, and as a survival method, he breaks into a school. So he breaks into a school called the Edge Academy, and this was on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
So he breaks into the Edge Academy, and this is the worst snowstorm in a generation. This is in Buffalo, and the town is called Cheektowaga. When the police came, they found like a window broken. They looked at the tape, and they saw, man, Jay broke in and started, and obviously looked for shelter in the school. But then he started walking out into the storm and finding people who were also trapped and bringing them back into the school with him.
Oh, shit.
So he's telling them like, "Hey, I've got a place to stay. Like come here." And then what he does is he goes into the nurse's office. He goes into random build and he starts getting like things to eat, like bottles of water, granola bars. There's a whole fridge full of food. They never touch it. They touch just enough to survive.
Right.
And there's like 20 something people. So there were seven elderly people stuck and out of fuel. There were, what did he say? So literally, I think 24 in total and 2 dogs. So 24 people and 2 dogs. Some of those people would have definitely frozen to death.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he takes them into the school. They all sort of kumbaya in a big room. They look for food. They look for things. They only use what they needed to survive. They spend Christmas Eve there, Christmas Day. He then takes the school's equipment, and they have a snowblower, and he goes around and he blows everybody's cars out so that they can make it out home the next day on Christmas Day. They clean up after themselves, throw everything, and then he leaves a note to the school, and it's crazy, man. I have a picture of the note, and it says, "To whom it may concern, I'm terribly sorry about breaking into the school window and for breaking in the kitchen. We got stuck at 8 p.m. Friday and slept in my truck with 2 strangers just trying to not die. There were 7 elderly people also stuck and out of fuel. I had to do it to save everyone and get them shelter and food and a bathroom. Merry Christmas, Jay." And some of the survivors were even left things behind saying they'll come back and pay for the window. They'll do all this stuff. But dude, the group got tight knit. They're planning like a reunion together. They were like, this is an experience that they'll never forget. But all because this one guy decided to not only save himself, he started going out into the storm and bringing in people.
How
man.
easy would it be for him to just stay in the school and just go like, I'm gonna ride this out?
Most of us, but I'm gonna ride this out. I'm gonna stay in there. But he noticed that there were other people stuck, just like he was stuck. I guess he tried to ride it out in the truck and realized, like, I'm going to freeze to death in here. I'm going to die because I ran out of fuel. I couldn't turn on the heat.
Right. And I guess the car would just be an icebox.
Yes.
Right?
It would just make it worse. Right? Yeah, you're sitting out there in a storm. It's encased in ice. It's I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the pictures. Literally, the snow is above the cars. Like, it's just, it was the blizzard of a century, really. Yep. It was horrible. Yeah, man, and this guy went in there, and it's so funny, man, how they did this to survive, and it felt almost guilty, like, taking things. So, like, some of the people were like, yeah, we're going back this week to replace the snacks that we took. We're going, like, it's just the you know, how it brought people together, man. And I just thought, that guy saved, you know, whatever, a handful of lives there that day. So these are people that for the rest of their lives owe their life to this man who thought, like, let me go get you, you know. And then he's like, what is he gonna feel like for the rest of his life? What is this school gonna, you know, like, you know, there's so, like, this community, all this stuff where I'm just like, man, I think it was like in the spirit of the show. I hate doing good things, but when I read that, I'm like, okay, this is the spirit of the show, because this is far reaching. Like, these are lives, and then you know, like, you can't impact one life without impacting the ones after it. And so, like, how many people benefited from this?
Yo, it's so true, man. And I know we're gonna talk about Damar Hamlin here in a minute. But how, you know, if those people, you said how many? 24
in total and 2 dogs.
Okay, so 24 people. If those people die in that storm, like, how many current lives are impacted, and how many future lives are impacted? Yeah,
how many kids are never born?
That's right.
How many kids don't have a parent, period? How many are a grandparent or stuff? It was, dude, the crazy thing that was kind of touching was when you read the article, it's from the perspective of the police, because initially they didn't know who it was. And so they watched the surveillance video of the school, and they're like, we watched these people literally, like, take exactly what they needed, and he's pushing his cart through the school, and he's got the cart full of, like, he's got, like, juice, he's got water, he's got, like, crackers and granola bars, like, he's got, like, the bare minimum, and they're like, there's a whole cafeteria full of food that they could have used, and they were, like, deliberately going, like, okay, we could do this, we can make it through the night, like, and then he's like, on camera, they're all literally cleaning up afterwards, pushing the desks back to how they were when they got there, and like, the police were just like, initially they said, yo, if anybody knows who this guy is, because they found him doing it first and then going back, like, yo, let us know. And then people were able to sort of track him down that way. But what was cool was the police were like, yo, just seeing the humanity in this guy. Like, we watched him break in, then we watch him break in to take the snowblower, do all this stuff, put it all back, do all this stuff, and leave the note. You know, I'm just like, dude, humanity never ceases to amaze me. I think when we sort of, like, band together for either in conflict or, you know, it's sad because it does take sort of some traumatic event for us to sort of band together.
But when it happens, right? Like, when you see people do that, it's incredible. I for one, I'm telling you right now, if I'm in there and I'm hungry, I'm eating.
Me and everything, bro.
I'm not,
Give me that school Salisbury steak. Give me that square pizza. It's going down. It's cool, man. It's cool.
But that is so cool.
And I think, you know, like you touched on it earlier, is a perfect segue. Dude, you know, by now, I think most people have known, even if you're not a football fan, what happened to Damar Hamlin. That was also, man, an example of, obviously, man, hopefully this kid recovers and he's able to sort of move forward with his life. But, like,
well, tell people what happened in case they didn't see.
Yeah, so if you didn't watch it, Damar Hamlin is a safety or a DB for the Buffalo Bills. Game last night, he goes to make a tackle. Guy runs into him full speed, essentially, but it looks like a textbook, you know, normal tackle. Yep. He makes a tackle, he gets up, and then he just collapses on the ground. The medical personnel from the team and in the stadium started to work on him. Next thing you know, it became like they're doing CPR. And so, you know, typically you see these injuries and they bring out a stretcher and, you know, maybe it's a head injury and a neck thing. At the time, we didn't know what was happening, but it turns out he went into cardiac arrest, probably from the impact of the hit into his chest or whatever it was. And so this kid is literally fighting for his life on the football field. It was rough to watch, man. Like, even my kids were just like, man, is he gonna be okay? Like, what? Like, it was so strange, man. And like, I've never met him, right? I didn't even know who he was as a player. Full disclosure, like I've never heard. Like, it's not like he's this massive superstar player, right? That people knew.
He's only a second-year guy, right?
Yeah, only second-year guy. Is only a starter because someone got hurt on that team in week 3. And then suddenly, like, the whole country knows your name, knows who he is, and then I think the other thing that it showed was, like going back to the story about the school was that like so many people were just like, man, I hope this guy's okay. Everybody's tweeting about it. His charity. I don't know. Did you see the money that his charity raised?
Yeah. So that charity and it's like a toys charity, right? For like
for like a
underprivileged kids or whatever.
But
right?
it's in daycares, like to get toys for daycares in sort of like underprivileged areas and stuff like that. Yeah.
But it was like a GoFundMe.
Yes, it was.
That had a. I think the target was 2,500.
Yeah.
They're over 3 million.
Yeah.
And I would imagine by the time that this podcast releases, they're going to be over 4.
Yeah, because he was at 3.6 last I checked.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, 3.6 million on a $2,500 goal. Because I think as humans, we just go, we can't do anything for him.
Right.
How do you support the things he cares about, his legacy? Whether that's like subconscious or conscious or whatever or not, but again, like we have this thing where we sort of like band together in crisis, or push, I guess, further apart. But a lot of times, like you see it with 9/11, you see it with all these things that like we tend to band together. And I think because this happened on like Monday Night Football, and the entire country is watching the one game, and we're all immediately frozen because man, I was like borderline I said borderline. I was emotional watching this, going like, man, this is a 24-year-old kid. Like, didn't look like a hard hit. There were so many things where you're just like, you forget that they play such a violent game because we're so numb to it because we watch it every week. But like I kept hearing the hit didn't look that bad, and it's because they're all that bad. These guys just sort of take them and get going, and we're just so used to it being worse.
Football is a sport that you have a 100% chance of getting injured if you play long enough.
Yeah.
Right? If you make it a career, there is a 100% chance that you get injured. And so, like you said, I think that the hit, and from what the doctors say, the hit was almost like a perfect, almost like a timing thing.
Yeah.
Where there's like this point in time where if you get hit in the chest, and I'm talking about milliseconds.
Yeah.
That you can go into cardiac arrest. So if if he is a millisecond later there or earlier, it doesn't happen.
No. It's like it's just literally perfect timing, and then the adrenaline rush. It's something I do with the adrenaline surges it, and then like I forget what it's called, but yeah, like you said, there
is a name for it.
Yeah, there's a name, and it's like literally if he gets hit a millisecond later, this probably doesn't happen or earlier, and you hate to speculate, but like it's just one of those things where you just go, man, it's like the cliche, like life is so fragile, but then also like it's easy to lose perspective on like what these guys do week in, week out. And then because you watch football, man, and you're just like, we get numb to it because we watch it happen all the time. Yep. And then you go, oh, that wasn't that bad. But you forget that each one of these hits is like a car accident every time. It's like, like the human body isn't meant to run into each other at full speed, with people who weigh 200 pounds running into people who weigh 300 pounds. And that happens I was talking to someone earlier at work, and they were saying that their son plays hockey. Okay. And they were saying that they don't feel bad about their son playing hockey because while hockey is a contact sport, like they're like, yeah, it just doesn't seem as bad. And I was thinking about that. And I'm like, well, that's because the goal of hockey isn't to tackle the person with the puck, right? It's to take it. There's some finesse in hockey.
That's true.
In football, 100% of the time, the goal is to hit the person who has the ball.
Yep.
And then further from that, you're hitting people who don't have the ball on every play.
Yep.
So 100% of the time, if you're involved in a play in football, there's contact. It's just whether or not the contact is violent enough because you have the ball or not, or and so I think that's a huge differentiator here, where you go like, yeah, I know concussions are just as bad in soccer. Yeah, I know hockey is sort of just as bad, and there's a potential, and there's fights. Like hockey, you can literally fight. But hockey, you could go minutes in hockey, and people get pushed into the, into the wall and do all that stuff. But it isn't every single play at full speed, world class athletes. Like it just, I think it's easy to lose sight of that, man, until you see something like what happened yesterday, and you just go, shit, man, this is such a violent sport. It's such a fragile sport, and these guys literally, dude, the asshole economist in me immediately started thinking like, man, why aren't these guys' contracts guaranteed? And I know that doesn't bring him back if something happened. Like, hopefully he pulls through. Like, I don't care. I don't think his family cares whether or not, that they get money if something happens to him. But if this guy has a family or people that he takes care of, you were saying before, like, he's 24 years old. Like, how many people are counting on him?
Yeah.
Or not, or will be, but that's irrelevant. It's like football somehow doesn't have a guaranteed contract, but yet baseball does. And, the NBA does.
NBA does too.
And
right?
then, so you just go, I think football now become the sport where I'm just like, yeah, I can't be, and I think I do this already, but it's like, when players hold out or they complain or do all this stuff, I think in NBA, you just go, man, you guys sort of lack perspective. Like, you get to play a sport, and not that they shouldn't hold out for their value.
We do that to everybody.
We
bro.
do, but I think that football more than anything now, I think it's made me realize, like, I absolutely 1,000% understand why people like Lamar Jackson go, no, I'm holding out. You're going to pay me what I'm worth. Like, even though personally as a fan, of the game, I go, I don't think Lamar Jackson is worth that. But if I'm Lamar Jackson, I go, every play I'm risking not being able to do this again, right? Maybe he doesn't look at it as I'm risking my life, but I am risking a career in the only way that I know how to make a living today.
Right.
And so I need to get paid this money that I believe that I'm worth, because it affects my future, my kids' future, maybe my grandkids' future, my parents, whoever these guys are sort of in charge of taking care of.
Yeah. And dude, one of the things that I thought about when I saw it, I mean, obviously super sad, but it was that moment of feeling gratitude, man, because I go, what was I doing at 24 years old? Right. And so I kind of ran down of what I was doing and what my life was like at 24. And then it was like from 24 to now. So I'm 48. So the next 24 years, like, what has happened in that time frame? And obviously for me, my big thing was like my 3 children. And you go, yo, and I was talking to one of my sons about this, and I go, if me or your mom pass at 24, none of you exist. Do I have children, or does she have children? Sure. It's not you.
It's not you.
It's not you.
Yeah, how that changes the course of history.
Right. Even from a sort of a smaller scale, personal level, but I think about like even like my parents and like my wife's parents, and like what, not only what do we mean, but us having kids and what those kids mean to them. I go, yo, like, if they're not there, like those lives are different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's other things, right? There's other impacts that I've probably had on other people that maybe I don't even know about. It's just like I said, man. It's just,
there's layers of it. Like, if you want to take
layers.
it, I mean, you can take that to so many levels where you go, what if one of your kin is the person who invents something, or the person who, who does something significant in history, good or bad, right? Like, you go, what if that's the person that starts a war, or, whatever it may be,
Whatever
but it
it is,
changes the course of humanity.
It does,
and
man.
it seems like such an over-exaggeration, but I don't think that, I don't feel that way, because I do think that, like you said, like, one life impacts so many down the line. Like, it's compounded by those, and then like, you think about your kids, but then it's like, what about the people who come into contact with your kids? What if it's a girlfriend or a friend, or like, then that sort of branches out, and it changes everything, man. And this kid, man, at 24, he said that, who know, like, hasn't lived yet. And then who doesn't exist if something were to happen to him? And I hope he's made it this far. We're like a day in, man. I'm really hoping that he pulls through. Like, it's so funny, man. I saw some people talking about whether or not he'll play football again if he pulls through and all this stuff. And I'm going like, man, that would be, it's the furthest thing from mine. And it was so funny, man. We're selfish as fans, because immediately you're like, when he initially gets hurt, you're kind of like, well, are they going to start the game again? And I think once you sort of understood the magnitude, like I remember, I think when I saw the ambulance on the field that hit me, I went, I've never seen an ambulance on a football field.
That's exactly what I told. Yeah.
And I went, and at that point, I went, you can't finish this game. When I saw players crying, I was like, you have to cancel this game. Like, it's so irrelevant at this point in time. Like, and I understand. Listen, Skip Bayless got a lot of shit for being insensitive, and I'm gonna come to Skip Bayless's defense. If you don't know who Skip Bayless is, he's a sports sort of commentator. He has a show called Undisputed on Fox Sports every day with Shannon Sharp, where he was talking about he didn't know. I'm going to paraphrase here, but his tweet was like, I don't know how the NFL sort of postpones this. You sort of have to play this. It's meaningful to the the game. Blah blah blah. Right. I don't think Skip realized how bad this was.
But if you saw that, so I read his tweet and then I reread it, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it. But I want to say at the very end, he kind of said something like nothing else really matters right now.
Yes, he did.
Right, but I think that, and again, this is the problem with social media, is like if you put your immediate thought out there, dude, how many text messages do you receive from people that you go like, what the fuck is their problem? And it's not, the tone is different, or sorry, the tone in your head as you're reading it is not what was intended by the person that wrote it.
Yeah.
There was somebody else also, another ESPN. Not another. He's Fox. There's an ESPN employee that was basically like, "Yo, you can't stop this game. There's too much riding on this. Like as far as like betting and shit like that, right?" And I go like, "Yo, that's just the quick, the quick reaction, man." And it's like you got to give people some grace. We all
in the moment,
yes, we all do and say shit sometimes that in retrospect you go like, fuck, man, like I didn't think it was this bad, right? Like maybe a lot of us were thinking, oh, they're gonna put him on a stretcher, he's gonna give us all a thumbs up, and the game's gonna keep going.
I definitely was until I saw the ambulance.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, matter of fact, before I saw the ambulance, when they were saying CPR for 9 minutes, I was that's when it really hit me that I was like, fuck, man, like this dude may not make it. That's a long time for the brain to be without oxygen.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a scary situation, and I think looking at Skip's thing, I went, yeah, time and place, right? Like his mistake was maybe leave that out in the group of things, but when you read them sort of continuously, you go, okay, he acknowledged the fact that nothing else mattered and stuff. I also think I think you and I were texting back and forth, and I remember going, I think you said something like, what's taking so long to cancel the game? Like, this should have been called a long time ago. And I was like, there's a lot of moving parts, because whether we like it or not, listen, this kid's life matters more than anything. But at the end of the day, like, you can just cancel this. But then I think the immediate sort of response to that is, well, what happens with, and then you have to sort of be able to answer some of those questions, right? Like, there are people who are working at that stadium that night. There are television contracts that have to be figured out. There's a game that you have to postpone. I understand this guy's life is on the line, but then it's like there is a season that is on the line for certain teams that need to be played out. There's so many moving parts, and that's not insensitive to him. I just think there's like a time or place. Like, yeah, maybe last night wasn't it. Like, you should definitely because to me, I go, none of this shit matters. Like, obviously, this kid.
It's almost like I wanted to just cancel, just like stop putting the broadcasters back on. Like, just kill the broadcast, put it 30 for 30 on ESPN, and then figure this shit out later.
Yeah, and it will right. And I think that's what that. And again, I think the other part, like going back to what you were saying about not having grace, this is unprecedented. They haven't had to do this. Like, none of the people who've done it, like even the officials are looking around going like, I don't know what the fuck to do. Like, normally you would just 5-minute warm. Like, people were saying, oh, the NFL said 5-minute warm up and you go back. That's not the case at all. The rule typically with something like that with a normal injury is like, oh, each team gets 5 minutes to sort of get warmed up, get back and then go. That's just protocol. It wasn't like the NFL was going warm up in 5 minutes and let's get it going.
Right.
It's that's just what these guys know, and that's what's in place. They've never had a scenario where they're trying to resuscitate someone on the field, and so I think everyone involved. And listen, credit to the coach of the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills and the NFL offices and all that, because like I kept seeing the coverage all night and they were all talking to each other and these guys are on cell phones, and I think ultimately the coaches were like, I don't think my guys can play this game, and they wound up making the right decision, which was calling the game. But I like the fact that it wasn't an emotional sort of like, we're gonna make this right away. Like, people, they got to talk it out, they got to feel it out, they got to, like you said, it would have been really easy to sort of go right out of the gate, no, we're gonna do this is what he would have wanted, or no, we got to cancel it because this is bad. And I think that get under the circumstances, I think these coaches, man, as leaders of their team, did the right thing, and that was, they talked about it, they took the emotions into account, they did what was right, which is ultimately, let's cancel this game. But just the way they handled it, man, was like, there's so many people who wouldn't have been able to handle that in that scenario because this has never happened before. No one's left a rule book behind to go, hey, if this happens, this is how we go. Like, I don't think the NFL is planning for, like, yo, if a player should die, like, you do this. Or if a player's on the brink of death, like, hey, you should do this. Because I do think if those players wanted to play, they probably would have done it. Like, I think if those players said, like, you know, man, we're going to keep it going. Those coaches said, like, yeah, these guys want to keep going. They probably would have made that decision. I'm not here to say whether that was right or wrong, but I think that it's really hard to judge people when they're sort of like under that guillotine, which is what that was last night. It's like, this is unprecedented. We don't know what to do. And ultimately, I think the right decision was made, which was like, man, we can't do this. Because I don't think I had the stomach to watch football after that last night, man. I definitely, like, I was so, like, I don't even know, sick to myself as a feeling. It was,
I wasn't sick.
I was just so worried
sad,
about him, man. It was just sad. I was just like, shit, man. It's like, I kept going, like, this kid's 24. Like,
and I've been watching football for probably 40 years, bro, and never seen an ambulance on the field. I have seen horrific hits.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen dudes leave paralyzed. But I think the only, like, sporting event that I can recall where somebody died was in wrestling.
Oh,
the guy who
Owen Hart.
Owen Hart.
I remember that.
He fell from the rafters, man, when he was doing that.
And the camera turns away. Dude,
Yeah.
I remember that. Dude, they kept that event going, didn't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, they kept that. They finished. It was like
Yeah.
the show goes on kind of thing.
Right.
They took him out, and then
Yeah, because he wasn't dead right away. But yeah, and they kind of
He died
carried
in
him
the
off,
hospital.
and then they kind of keep the show going.
yeah, I'm almost positive they kept that going. I
Yeah,
remember
I'm
that.
pretty
He was
sure they
the
did
blue
too.
blazer, but it was Owen Hart. He used to come down from the. Yeah,
Yep.
man. I remember that. I was in middle school, man, and that
Yeah.
happened. It was like, I was like the talk for the whole next day. It was like, holy shit. It was on pay-per-view.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing I could, the one that came to mind for me was the Daytona where Dale Earnhardt.
Oh, like I didn't watch that. I saw it on ESPN, like on highlights.
So, you know what's funny? I had just moved to Florida, and so obviously NASCAR is not a thing when you grow up in the Northeast. And I think that was my first Daytona that I ever watched. It was the first one I experienced since I lived here.
Oh wow!
And it was one of those, everybody made such a big deal of it. And I didn't watch the whole race, but I remember watching that live. And the Dale Earnhardt crash wasn't that bad. It was similar to this, where it was like very like, oh, that's like a textbook sort of crash,
Right.
like it happens, blah blah blah. But I remember, you know, like all the chaos and commotion and them rushing them out, and just remember thinking like, man, that didn't look that bad. Like that's the one that I kept thinking about yesterday, going like, man, I remember Dale Earnhardt, same freakish. It didn't look that bad. It didn't look Senna too from Formula One, man. I don't know if you remember that. Like his crash wasn't in the. It's bad when you look at it, but you go in the sort of Formula One where you're used to these dramatic car flips 17 times out of it. It's not that bad, and so when he doesn't make it from that, you're just like, really? Like that one? So I thought of that. I also got chills, man, at one point because I thought of Ryan Shazier. And Ryan Shazier, remember from the Pittsburgh Steelers? I'm almost positive Ryan Shazier did it on Monday Night Football against the Bengals on that same field.
You might be right, man. I know that Colin Cowherd played an old interview with him. And what was interesting was he goes out and he's like even knowing what I know, like I still do it.
Yeah.
I still play football. I still and what Colin had sort of made a point when he replayed that was just like, yo, these dudes are like a different breed. Yeah,
they're very aware, I think, of what that. Yeah,
and I think Booger McFarland was also saying it on the Monday Night Sportscast was he was like, yo, like injury, like we know we're gonna get injured. We know we're gonna break bones. Like this is normal. It's the death part that you never think is coming, but it just kind of speaks to how fragile life is. And then how it's almost, you know how they always say, like, football is a game of inches? Life is a game of inches and seconds, and in this case, milliseconds.
Yeah, you said milliseconds. You know, maybe this doesn't happen to him. Hold on, man. I hope he pulls through, man. This would be...
Yeah, sending out, you know, thoughts and prayers to his family and hoping that he makes a full recovery, whether he ends up playing football or not.
Yeah, you know, you almost like just don't care. And it's funny, man. I know time, you know, with time, I think we'll all sort of get back into our like routines and watch stuff and all that. But I certainly hope that this leads to some change in terms of like, I don't know rule wise what you could do. I really don't. I think football is as safe sort of as it's going to get aside from the equipment, and I guess you lessen sort of like you put scenarios in where there's no contact allowed. Like I don't know, in his scenario there wasn't. Like I don't know how you fix that scenario.
Dude, nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Right.
Happened.
It was just so normal. Like other than not hitting, right? It's like I don't know what you do in that specific scenario. What I do hope it does, man, is that the Players Association looks at this and the NFL and they figure out. And I know they always fight about healthcare and all this stuff. But I do certainly hope that they look at this and work on a way to make these contracts fully guaranteed. And I don't think that's an overreaction. I think that looking at other sports that fully guarantee their contracts, listen, these guys aren't.
Does anyone else have a 52-man roster?
No. And there's a reason why. And even like, like as a Titans fan, I would say like last season, they went through 80, almost 90 players. It was like 85, 86 players. And I think it might have been higher than that. That was like the last I heard because of injuries.
Yep.
You're talking more than half of the team gets hurt and it turns over. It's just the nature of this sport. But I also think like, I'm not one of these people who goes like, look at all this money these guys make. I don't know what Damar Hamlin makes, man, but I guarantee you that
it's like $800K.
Yeah, that's not worth your life, bro.
Right.
And that's certainly $800K is a really good accountant over the course of 6 or 7 years. Like that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And so I think when I see these guys and they're like guaranteed $60 million, worth it, because no matter, dude, how many football players do you hear make into their 80s? Or 70s? Not many. And so I go, is that worth 20 years of your life or 10 or whatever it is? I go like, there's undoubtedly, you play this sport, you're sort of, it's almost guaranteed that your life is going to be significantly shorter than if you decided to go flip burgers or work in IT or whatever it is. Like I think there should be a way to fully guarantee this and offer healthcare beyond, you see it with the CTE, you see it with all the stuff where you just go, I don't understand why these guys aren't compensated and then their families taken care of for the duration of that, because it is a risky. I think it's like you look at businesses that have hazard pay, like going back to Disney. Disney has roles that they have hazard pay for.
Yep.
I feel like their hazard pay here should be fully guaranteed contracts. Like I really, if baseball has it and it doesn't make sense to me why baseball has it, and football doesn't. Like, listen, good for baseball guys, good for NBA guys. Why not people in the most violent sport? And maybe it is because there's such a high turnover.
Yeah.
And teams are like, well, fuck, we'd go broke if we have to keep paying everybody. Like maybe it's that. And maybe the economics don't work and you have to change other things to sort of make that work. Or maybe there's like funds you have to set up. But I do hope that of all the things that come out of this, I hope he is okay. But I also hope that they look at the economics of this and figure out a way to make sure that these guys and their families are taken care of, because, who knows who's counting on this guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I just want to point out that, you put my entire career into 2 seconds. Flip burgers and work IT.
Can you tell I'm really salty about a hot ticket I haven't?
I'm sorry.
Fucking IT guy.
Fuck, shit, man. Where do we go from there, man? Keeping it with football, you see Ed Reed?
Dude, I did. Go ahead.
So Ed Reed, former defensive back for the Baltimore Ravens, the championship team, Baltimore Ravens. I think he's a Hall of Famer, right? Ed Reed?
Yeah. Ed Reed's a Hall of Famer.
He has been hired to be the new head coach at Bethune-Cookman University. So I think a few weeks back we talked about Deion Sanders leaving his HBCU to go on to like a Division I school, and then in steps Ed Reed, man, and I'm like, yo, like that. I think that was just such an amazing move by him, or even by the school, to be able to hire him, right? Do you go like, yo, Deion's gone, but yo, all the shit that people may have been mad at Deion about for leaving, maybe Deion has started something.
Dude, Bethune-Cookman does not get Ed Reed without Deion Sanders doing what he did at Jackson State. I 1,000%
But no
believe
one,
that.
but like, who's giving Deion credit for that? I think that's where I'm saying.
And you're right, and we absolutely should. Like we said, he sort of like paved the road, and this is because of him. There is zero chance Ed Reed takes the head coaching job at Bethune-Cookman, because Ed Reed can go be an assistant cornerbacks coach at Alabama
or in the NFL
or USF or the NFL and make more money probably.
Yep.
And also have a easier career path to a head coaching job or at least a better assistant coaching job. He took Bethune-Cookman, which is not far from here, and HBCU. I think this is 1,000% a Deion Sanders effect.
Yeah,
man.
and by the way, those two guys played together in Baltimore. So it just goes to show like that had to be some influence on that side, right? Of Deion going like, yo, guys, like we need to do this to get to bring these schools and these programs up to par.
Yeah, dude, it's 1,000%. It's I think this is a springboard, man. And then they go leave for for whatever
right.
I want to say better jobs, but whatever for more high profile jobs.
But
right?
that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. It's like the pro athlete, right? He's got his girlfriend, and then once he makes it, he gets the big contract. He trades her in for a white girl. It's like Colorado's the
white girl. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, man. So it's funny, man. I read the story and I immediately went, that doesn't happen without Deion Sanders.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen.
Dude. I'm like I said, I had to bring it up, and it's a very short story, but it was like we touched on Deion Sanders last time, and touched on the criticism that he received. But I go, man, this has to be. I don't know for a fact, but this shit, it really feels like a byproduct.
Yeah,
of him being there.
I think so too, man. I completely agree, bro. We're 15 minutes in here, so I want to get into this.
Do it.
So we're talking about people getting sort of life being a little fragile. You saw this medical center in the UK, what they did on over the holidays?
No.
So they went to send a mass text to all their patients to say happy holidays.
Okay.
Instead, the text told them that they had an aggressive form of lung cancer. They mass sent that shit to everybody. Bro, the dopest part about that is how nonchalant the follow-up text is like,
please disregard.
Yeah, the follow-up text says, please accept our sincere apologies for the previous text message. This has been sent in error. Our message to you should have read, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. In case of an emergency, please contact. And it gives like a number. I'm like, yeah, to the guy who thought he was dying, who just bought a Ferrari. It's like, fuck it, I'm not paying this credit card bill. Bro. How do you fuck that up?
Bro.
The original text says, from the forward letters that, whatever, Dr. blah, 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 has asked for you, it has some number for the above patient. Diagnosis, aggressive lung cancer with metastasis. Thanks. That's it. It literally signed, thanks.
Here, bro.
Bro, you basically tell them, like, yeah, you're fucked. Thank you.
If you get that and you don't go, like, buy a Ferrari, right? Like, what are you feeling after the fact?
Yo, if you're sad as shit, you're sitting there, bro. Who knows how much time?
Now you get the other text.
Though it goes
like, sorry.
So it goes. Oh, I have the time. Let me hear. There's 22 minutes in between that.
Oh.
So between the mass text and but dude, in 22 minutes, think about if you get that text, the conversations you're gonna go have, or maybe not, but the inner dialogue that you're going like, fuck, like I'm dead, like I'm, like having this aggressive form, like you're going through this whole thing. Your life changed in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, dude. When I was, and I've told you this before, and I may have said it on this podcast before as well. When I was a kid in elementary school, somebody pranked the school and said that my mom died in the car accident.
Oh, I remember telling me that.
Did I tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was this probably 20 to 30 minutes, and I'm guessing because I don't remember exactly the time. But of the principal of the school taking me into the church, telling me that my mother died in a car accident, me fucking melting on upon hearing that, and then from like melting to being brought down, and then him telling me that my dad was gonna come pick me up, which my parents were divorced at the time, right? And so when I'm sitting there and I'm pondering, it was like I started thinking about like, why would what like we didn't even own a car. We didn't own a car, right? So it was like she takes the fucking train to work. Why would she be in a car in the middle of the day, right? And then me going, my dad's coming to pick me up. Like, why would he come pick me up? Why wouldn't it be somebody else from like my mom's side, right? Because it was you gotta think like this is in the 80s. This is in the early 80s. This is like my father. Like I knew him, but he wasn't really involved.
Like he wasn't in the picture like that.
Right. We're not saying that he wouldn't have come, but I would have expected them going like, yo, like I don't know, like your grandmother's coming to pick you up. That would have sounded more plausible to me. But it was this 20 to 30 minute time frame of me like going through this shit, kind of like you almost like reevaluating your life. And then when they came back with the proverbial, oh, we fucked up, your mom is fine, she's on the phone,
we fucked up.
Yo, man, I actually felt bad for the principal because he had to come back and tell me that they fucked up.
Yo, do you feel good if you're him? Do you feel shitty?
He felt he felt really shitty. And then he was like apologizing like to no end. And I looked at him and I was like, listen, I go, my mom's alive. I don't care.
I don't care about any. Yeah.
I don't care about nothing else.
Fuck, man.
So like thinking about this text, right? To receive that text, whether you tell somebody or you don't, what is that inner that inner dialogue of what's going on where you go like, fuck man, like I was just there last week, I gotta check up, I was good to go, or I ain't been there in 5 years. How the fuck they gotta, how do they know about, you know what I mean?
I knew I shouldn't have done that 23andMe. They got my blood, now they know what's wrong. Like, oh man, dude, like you said, like, and what's that like? That roller coaster ride of like, oh fuck, my life changed, or maybe I can beat this. I don't know, like whatever that conversation is like with yourself, and then suddenly it's just like
it's gone.
Man, does that change your perspective moving forward? Like, what does that do?
I don't know, man. Like I said, for me as a kid, I was just happy that it wasn't true, and I easily moved on. However, obviously had huge. That was like a moment in my life that I'll never forget.
Yeah, man, that's funny, man, because you've told me that story before, and the first time you told it to me, man, I think I got chills because I'm like, fuck, man, I can't even imagine as a kid hearing that, and then like your life, because we're like in like similar scenarios where I just go like, who the fuck am I going with?
Who am I going with?
Who like what is? Yeah, like it just.
And that's exactly when it was like that. My father was coming to pick me up. I think I want to remember saying like, well, fuck, like, do I have to go live with him? Like in his 1-bedroom apartment? Like is that what we're doing now?
I don't want to go.
But I remember having those kind of thoughts where I was just like, okay, well, if I don't go with him, do I go with my grandmother? But there's no room in her house. Do I go with my aunt? Like all of that shit is playing in your head in this 20 to 30 minute time span. So I couldn't imagine somebody giving you a fucking death sentence for yourself.
I can't even.
And then going like, oops, sorry, Merry Christmas.
I can't even. Man, I saw this shit and I couldn't stop laughing. And then at the same time, I was like, fuck, man, what's that like if you're on the receiving end of oh my God, man, like that emotion and to get it and you just go, motherfucker. But the crazy part is like, that shit belonged to somebody.
Right.
So did somebody get the apology one too? And they're like, no, I'm good. And then a week later, like, no, you definitely should have been getting this shit treated. It's grown out of.
Be like, sorry, Merry Christmas. And then the next text is like, oops, wait a minute, not for you. This is actually meant for you.
You definitely need chemo. It's like, fuck, man.
Fuck, man. How are we doing on time?
Dude, we're at 58 minutes.
All right, so hit me up. You gotta tell me about this fucking somebody became a dog or something.
Oh, bro, yeah, this is a good one, man. So this guy in Japan, he's named Toko. So Toko identifies, the best way I could put it is that he thinks he is a dog. Okay. So he spent $14,500 to become a dog, and he worries that his friends will think that he's weird. So in some article, he goes like,
please tell me you have pictures.
He's like, I rarely tell my friends because I am afraid that they will think that I am weird. My friends and family seemed very surprised to learn that I became an animal. And to that, I would say, Toko, Fucking course, we think that's a little weird that you decided to go animal. And now I'm gonna say, though, this motherfucker looks like Lashley. I'm gonna send you. I don't even know, bro. Bro, he looks like what's that creature that?
That's the guy.
Yeah, that's a costume.
Okay, what I'm looking at right now, people, I'll show you on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see that. Maybe zoom in or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It looks like Lassie.
It looks like Lassie.
And for
bro.
those of you who have not seen Lassie, fucking Google it. It's a collie, like it's a collie.
Yeah.
But
it's a costume that he spent money. So he wears that around and acts like a dog.
I fucked up.
You fucked up. You open up my dirty photos.
I scrolled down. I saw a Hooters girl.
Damn it! That's a sneak peek for next week's episode.
No, that's good.
That's good. So we'll show it on there. Go look up Toko, the guy who spent money to become a dog. But that's,
so so $14,500. What does that buy him?
That suit.
Is it? It's just a suit.
It's a suit, and then he acts like a dog. It's a ridiculously realistic canine suit, which
it really looks. It does look really.
It
good.
does look very realistic.
Yeah.
So listen, money well spent. If your goal was to look like a dog, you look like a dog, bro.
So is this dude like a furry?
No, he just said since childhood I've had this unspecific that doesn't sound right, but it says unspecific fantasy of becoming an animal. And he just said he's always worried.
Maybe he didn't give a fuck which animal it was.
Yeah, and he said he just thought that it was he just felt embarrassed because he didn't want people to think he was weird because he feels like he's perfectly normal, except that he thinks he's an animal. And so he goes around dressed as this and then does the whole thing, acts like a dog.
I wonder if he has like a community.
He's got it right because the furries are more like mascots.
Yes.
This looks like a dog.
It really does. I wonder if he has somebody walk him.
Yeah, with a leash but like the dominatrix joint where they walk you with a leash.
Hey, yeah. I was gonna say, dudes do it without the fucking pet costume on.
Just wear the heels and give me the leash. I don't need to wear a costume. Skip all that shit.
It's all coming off anyway.
Ain't no need to overdress for this occasion, baby.
Yo, on that, tell them where they can find us.
If you're not already, follow us at the Carbon Food Podcast on IG, the Carbon Food Podcast on YouTube, the Carbon Food Podcast on TikTok, at Carbon CFP on Twitter, and anywhere where you get your podcast, man. All your audio, your favorite audio platforms, so Amazon Music, Spotify, Tutor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Ghana. That's it. Spotify already. I think I said Spotify, Podchaser, Geo7, all of them, man. So go out there, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Give us some drink recommendations. Leave us some reviews. Do it all, man. Thank you guys for the continued support, man. This shit is so fun every week, man. I'm still not tired of this. I don't know how.
Absolutely. But, yo, and try the El Diablo drink. And this week, people, I think the piece of this podcast that you could take away is to remember that life is precious. Go hug your loved ones, man. If you got some fucking grudges with people that you haven't talked to in a long time or whatever, like, go fix all that shit because none of it's worth it. Life is short. Life is precious. Treat it that way. And we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Peace.
Peace.